Hello, it's Fragments. We've been gone for a couple of weeks. Not that you'd know, thanks to YouTube. But we are picking up with, I think Jack has said that he wanted to do the summary of what happened last time in Fragments. One sweet inspiration.
Yeah. For me at least, I had only been gone a moment. Vanessa had only been gone a moment, but apparently she'd been gone for 2 weeks. But she suddenly reappeared after some battle with some kind of dragon who turned the forest into flesh. I don't know. I wasn't there, but after being reunited, she was also introduced to Mr. Quinn over here. Uh, Seems like a nice guy. Doesn't have any issues with him yet. We'll see. But together, they all made it to Morfenzi and met up with Dr. Raspberry. And when they did, they found out that not only was he very, very tall, but he apparently worshipped an entirely foreign theocracy to ours. Some deity just named God, kind of uncreative name, if you ask me. But he seems to be a worshiper of this, monotheistic religion, and he ended up procuring Whisper of her blueness, and seems to also have been something of an out of towner. And I also got reunited with what's his name, Valentine, Virgil, Vespa,
Primrose.
Primrose. Yeah, totally different letter. Um, yeah. But yeah, I was reunited with him, and we'll see where that goes. But yeah, other than that, if I'm missing anything, must not
Does
have been
anybody
important.
want to add anything in there?
Oh.
Cool. Vanessa, one inspiration to you. So yeah, you had just been invited for dinner by the doctor, and that is where we're picking up. So let me take us through to the parlour. Should just be loading. And for those who need a reminder, this is the doctor. Again, very, very tall. I think we had that he was pushing 7.5, 8 feet. Doesn't have that huge stockiness that, like, a troll or giant kid might have. But he is extremely tall. Yeah, you are led. Looking around as you go along the hallway, you will see there's a single guard posted downstairs, like on the inside of the doors you came in. This is not a place where you seem to be, like, flanked by guards or under any form of visible duress. And the doctor walks about halfway down a short corridor before he opens the door and steps back and makes a sweeping gesture, and you can see sort of candlelight coming from inside. Very well. As nobody goes in, he steps through himself and vanishes into the room.
I will look to the others and follow in afterwards, boldly in bravery.
Yeah, there is the same sort of, not overly dusty, but just not hugely well maintained decor. There is a table large enough for all of you with... Has anybody... I know one of you has, actually. How many of you have dined with nobility or at high-end sort of places, like quasi-royalty or things like that? Yeah? Have you? I don't know about Hazeems. Okay. This is not on that level. This is just... It's probably the best meal you've had in months. Certainly since arriving in Falkovnia, but it doesn't exactly rival King's. You see a few options, a few large centerpiece dishes. Seems to mostly be chicken based. The doctor stands. There's a single serving person in the room, a young woman. Even the serving staff, people just doing household chores here, still have visible weaponry. Anyone who's not able to help against the zombies here is not useful. So everybody's weaponed. Everybody's tooled up all the time. If you'd all care to join me.
I will take a seat to one. I'm presuming he's sitting at the head of the table, yeah?
No. He's just at the side. The head of the table is left empty.
Okay. Which is the biggest seat in it? Because he's a big fellow, so I presume.
Yeah, there's a couple of chairs he could have gone for. A couple of what look quite spacious chairs. He just picks one that's along the longest side of the table. Not even in the center of that side.
Okay.
Just a very...
I will sit to one side of him then.
I will sit across from him, but down the way.
Mm-hmm. Once everyone's taken a seat, he'd sort of been stood, hands on the table, but look around, sort of smile. Once everybody's sat, he gives a small, content smile and sits himself, and his head descends about 2 foot, because he's still such a big person at the table. I've taken the liberty of having some slight extravagance with the fare this evening. You will understand that food is the most precious commodity here. But for fine guests, fine food.
Your hospitality is noted and appreciated.
And, does anybody partake of wine?
I never drink wine.
I'm sure one cup wouldn't hurt.
I will take hers.
He looks to one in the corner. If you would be so kind. And she nods and brings over a flagon and pours for anybody who wants it. She does not pour for him. Doesn't even go to pour for him.
Are you abstaining as well?
I do. I do not partake.
It is most hospitable of you to have it opened for your guests if you are not one that drinks yourself. So to that I will salute. And I take a long, enjoyable swig. The first one isn't a swig. The first one's always a... like that warmth. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, now I'm feeling good.
As he's drinking, I'll just kind of, with a little flash of my eyes, try to just make sure that the meal isn't, magically enchanted or anything like that.
Yeah. You flash your detect, your eldritch sight, or whatever the exact name of it. You glimpse around. The food appears to be untainted by magical means. The doctor smiles. Nothing of the sort.
I'm gonna just look down at Vanessa's reaction, because I'm used to her tricks, but it's not like they really announce themselves, right?
They do not.
Okay, so I'm just gonna look down at her to see what her reaction to that is, or get confirmation that she did something.
She turns her head a bit, because earlier he noticed something too, right? He noticed something about the illusions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just kind of her taking stock of that. But Whisper would see that she has not started to eat yet.
He sort of looks at Vanessa for a long moment before he nods. Would you all excuse me for just one moment?
Of course.
And he stands and leaves the room.
The hair on the back of my neck, which is all of my neck, just kind of prickles a little bit at him suddenly excusing himself, and I cast a glance around to everybody. I'm presuming I still have my weapon with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would have leaned it on the side. I wouldn't have sat down with it in my lap.
Next to him.
And I kind of look to make sure it's within darting range.
But, well, if you're curious, the food isn't enchanted, so please, by all means.
Does it detect whether it is poisoned?
Fortunately, no, so that's something that you'll have to determine on your own.
Ah, well, he who dares.
The servant was like, I would recommend waiting until he returns.
Do you know why he has left?
I don't, but he will want to say a prayer before eating. It is important to him.
It seems only polite anyway to wait. I say, salivating.
A minute or two later, he reemerges carrying a goblet. He's like, forgive me, but it occurred to me that this may be a vintage more appealing to you, Vanessa. And he'll place a goblet on the table between you, and from your nose you'll be under no illusions of what this contains.
She corks it quickly, but as discreetly as possible. No, but I appreciate the consideration. Please save it for another guest. And she'll pass it back to him directly.
He gives a slight smile, but just sort of sets it down next to him. Make a...
Is there any way for us to kind of pick up on what it might have been? If it's been passed,
a dark red
it's a big
wine.
Scribbled label on it that says...
It's just a goblet itself, yeah. It's it's not a bottle.
Does it have
it's
a
just a
distinct smell or anything?
It doesn't have a distinct smell, but make me a perception check. Vanessa, yours can be with advantage.
Azim's got keen senses.
Not that keen.
Neither was mine. Starting off great.
Are others at the table rolling to see if they clock anything here?
I
Seemingly
don't
not.
think
Oh.
Quint would notice anything.
Yeah. Just seems to be a dark wine in a silvery goblet. Whisper, you notice that there's just a moment where, despite himself, as he's sort of setting this goblet back down, through his coat, he just gives his arm a slight discomforted rub on the wrist for like just a moment before he turns his attention back to you all. I shall bless the food then, and then we eat, yes? And he just sort of lowers his voice and drops his eyes and seems to be given some quiet, just like slightly above a whisper incantation. It is lengthy. Anyone who cranes and listens will pick out a couple of words. An unfamiliar prayer. Everybody above the table would recognise elements of the Lord's Prayer. Obviously, to characters, nothing. And then at the end, he will lift back up and be like, please, take your fill.
What have we been served?
Pardon? 2 at once, sir.
What are we eating?
A big, elaborate roast, basically.
Loaves and fishes. Yeah, I will not hesitate. Does it look like the portions are scarce, or there's enough that we don't have to kind of like ration out? It's like we're kind of like digging in.
Rationing, yeah, digging in.
I'm digging in then.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Is the good doctor
He is.
eating?
Yeah. Yeah, he partakes. If there's anything that anyone sort of hesitates to take, he takes it first and piles his plate a little bit.
Yeah, Vanessa's just sort of sipping on her. Because were we served water at all, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
A dark red water.
Yeah, she'll just be sipping on water, watching mostly Raspberry, but she'll keep an eye on everyone else. And depending on the seating arrangement, I think she probably sort of do this thing where like she pulls her handkerchief to her mouth and says, "This is lovely. This is quite filling now." And she'll kind of pass the plate next to Quint.
He just maintains eye contact with you and gives the slightest smile. Just looks at your plate and then looks at you, and it's like a sort of a, we're playing this, are we? Without any sort of
Whisper
menace
is
to it.
not eating
hungry.
at all.
Okay.
Whisper,
She hasn't
Vanessa.
drank anything
Not very
either.
hungry. It's quite delicious, you know. Roll for flavor. Yeah, Quint digs in, and presumably notes that the two of them don't eat. But you know, I think given we don't know this person very well, it's understandable that they wouldn't.
Whereas Hazim is a little more devil may care at the moment. He's meant to be here.
Quint's probably just too naive.
If Whisper's not eating, what's her vibe like? Is she just sort of like...
I've been like, so Whisper's already a little quiet sometimes unless Arena is around. But like I've been extra quiet and just very wide-eyed, like watching. Probably a little more twitchy than normal. But definitely that vibe of like the rabbit's like alone out in the field, and it's like lift ear every, like, you know, does that make sense? It's very alert.
Trying to keep your attention up. Yeah.
Yep.
Is there something I can do or offer to ease your distrust of me, Whisper?
Don't believe there are things one can do to ease mistrust. It is usually the opposite. There are things you do to earn one's trust.
Then is there anything I can do to earn your trust?
All I know so far is that you have watched us without us knowing you from afar. You seem to know so much about us. You offer us this flera just after long travels, knowing we would want to eat it. You are interested in differences in creatures? And here you have a table of many that are different from this land.
I tend not to eat my guests, so...
Did not think you would eat us.
seemed
I a little
that's
bit
where
worried
you were
about
going.
it now.
No, I'm not of the stories I was told in my youth. Ghoulish beings and servants of the night who invite guests into their home with ill-advised quips about having them for dinner, and so on and so forth.
I did not believe you would eat us. I just do not believe that you would take such an interest
Although
in us.
maybe now I shall. A jape,
How
of
droll.
course. A jape to lighten the mood.
Without some other purpose.
I believe I've made my purpose clear. I would speak to you about your abilities and see if there are any lessons that could be imparted, skills that could be shared, knowledge exchanged to help the people of this land.
People you keep safe here also value the same kind of worship that you do. The unique.
What was the first part of that? Sorry, Jack.
Do the people who you protect here, do they value the same things as you? Do they share in your religion? And
Not in the slightest. This is another reason I was so keen to meet, I'm sure, with all of you, but particularly with Whisper, an advocate of God, in a place where I have been the only person who even understands the concept of faith. Everything here is very primitive and driven and primal.
Where you are from, there is only one your god? People only worship your god?
For the most part. There are some with other ideas, but nothing more than cults.
What is typically done to those people that do not worship your god?
In the past, shameful, terrible things. But now, in a more civilized era, we simply leave them be and respect their wishes. It is the differences, of course, that make us all the richer, which is why, again, Whisper, I was so keen to host you all this evening and celebrate those differences.
It's not so uncommon, you know, a monotheistic kind of society. Even in our home continent of Faerun, there are, you know, seafaring and port towns that almost exclusively pray to the Queen of the Oceans. So it's certainly not all that unusual, although obviously they do accept that there may be other deities and such, but yeah, I suppose it all depends on what's important to you.
Indeed.
when is the last time that people who serve under you have eaten as well as we have tonight?
Last month. We tend to keep a meal like this to either celebrate the passing of the Horde, or if morale requires it, to bolster before its arrival. I have indulged a little this month. We shall have 2. The perceived decadence troubles you, Vanessa?
Not in the least. I'm no stranger to decadence myself, but I'm just curious what your relationship with the people here was. Seem to carry a lot of authority here, and despite being an outsider, they seem to accept and trust you. But generosity goes a long way with people when you're an outsider.
You seem to be extremely forthcoming with your religion. What does Drakov make of it?
She indulges it. I imagine, would be troubled by it if it were my only asset, but I'm somewhat of a... Forgive me, Faerun, you have this term scientist?
Most commonly the profession of artificers, but understanding the meaning, of course.
Yes, I am somewhat of a scientist, and my research has borne fruit in helping against these monthly incursions of Virizen. I believe that keeps me enough in her good stead to entertain the pious ramblings of an old man.
But you do not look to spread the word of your gospel.
I attempted in my earlier days, but I could tell this is not a place that would be receptive to it, and though I'm sure I could martyr myself in trying to do so, I have made it my mission to help release this place from its bonds. And then when that is done in my Lord's name, the word shall spread even fiercer. That it was by his doing that the undead were smote.
Hey, as a man of science, have you had chance to experiment on undead beings? And to gain knowledge about their existence?
Extensively so.
Some among our group were of the opinion that perhaps they still retained knowledge or personality from their previous existences. During saying this, he can't help but look at Whisper whilst he's saying it.
It's not an opinion. We've seen it for ourselves with our own eyes.
Indeed, as have I.
And to that end, are they truly soulless corpses, or pray tell what you have discovered?
It is different from case to case. Those who retain some spark of life seem to gravitate towards each other. I can only presume that they sense it in each other and are perhaps drawn to one another. Those who have the spark are easily identifiable. You say you have encountered some, you will have seen they move with purpose. They make poor, rudimentary attempts at communication. They will even attempt to interact with one another or wield hand tools or weapons. To almost no effect, of course, you understand. But it shows that the spark is there. I have spoken with several, with limited success. My hope is that if reason can be found and communication made easier, they could perhaps be the key to staving off these attacks. As either an intermediary to try and find what it is the undead want, or as a bolstering of our own forces.
But you do find that some of them have been truly mindless.
Indeed, some are. The hunger. It would seem the hunger makes them impossible to reason with at the start. After some time, they may enter a period of lucidity as they come to terms with the hunger, but leave it too long, and their body begins to decay and break down at either the lack of sustenance or of time. We are still experimenting, and that lucidity once again fades. There is a window.
And has Drakov been receptive to these findings, to these ideas of yours, that they can possibly be corralled and contained, controlled?
Drakov is a shrewd tactician and a highly effective wartime leader. She cares little for social matters such as these, unless it is a tactical advantage. She has little ear for it.
Would you say then that if these findings of yours, this research that you're doing, that you're able to galvanize the undead into supporting her forces, you think that she would be more receptive to you then?
It is not a case of that she's not receptive to me, but were I to fail in my attempt to communicate with the Fallen, but instead manage to control them, I feel she would be much more enthusiastic about that avenue.
Do you have any active experiments now?
Yes.
Can we see them?
Yes. After dinner, though, yes?
Yeah, of course.
Then I'd be happy to show you my laboratory.
Did you practice similar experiments back in your realm?
I did not have the resources that I did here, and there was not the terrible... The gravity of the situation here not so much allows, but necessitates experiments that I could not entertain at home, would not want to entertain. But when the entire... You must understand, to these Falkovnians, this valley is less than 30 square miles, but it is the only world they've ever known. They've never stood on the prow of a zeppelin and overlooked an ocean. This is their world, and very much is in danger of being snuffed out.
So it's necessity then that drives you and not curiosity.
One can be curious about the decisions one makes out of necessity, but yes, it is a requirement, not a passion.
Vanessa turns to Whisper. Has she still not eaten? Is she still on high alert?
Yep. And I'm listening to everything he's saying, but I'm showing no interest in the food.
I assume Hazim is a clean plate club right now.
He's never had a clear plate. He keeps adding on to it before he's cleared his plate.
Dr. Razbanov, I don't suppose you've had any success in restoring those undead, either in body or in mind? if they are undead, perhaps they could be brought back to a status that one might even consider living, or at least their faculties enhanced in some way.
This is an area in which my research and experimentation continues actively.
I presume that the undead, particularly those from Eri, they are not exactly cooperative in your experiments.
They understand almost nothing of their situation. They may have a means to communicate, but there is very little there in faculty. They have very little comprehension of the passing of a moment. They very often seem to be clung in either moments before their death or particularly strong emotions during their life.
From what we have seen of Falkovnia, it does seem that the majority of those in area are those that have a spark. Is it the place that has given it them, or have they gravitated to each other and congregated there?
They will have congregated. You must remember, for every one you meet with this spark of life, 1,000 fell around them and did not re-rise.
And
it is easy to draw false correlation in these situations.
It is just interesting that some of them seem to have a place in Eri, like they originally lived there.
They very likely did. It was only some months since Eri fell. Long enough, perhaps, that the initial hunger may have waned. Eri is far removed enough that many could have remained there and not been cut down in the mop-up. But hunger has not yet overtaken them still.
What is the situation with the church there? It was all boarded up when we arrived.
Indeed, there was a... Shall I tell the story, Vanessa, or would you care to? I'm not sure how much you've shared with your companions, but what you found in there.
I've shared with them everything I found.
Very well. There was, as Vanessa will have told you, an edifice.
I'm watching Vanessa as he's speaking.
There was, as you
Stone
know,
Cold Baby.
An edifice hidden beneath the church, which we found. It contains matters entirely uninteresting to Drakov, but this is an area where I will admit to a degree of curiosity, Vanessa. A large crystal of enchanted resin containing some sort of whispering, tempting individual, force, entity, as you'll call it. It addled the minds of several of my finest and attempted to worm its way into my own soul. Little did it know, already full to the brim. And so I was not swayed, but we decided it was best that the church be boarded, sealed, entombed. Were I back home, we had a special stone that could be turned to liquid, which we would have filled the place with, but such a thing has not been possible to replicate here.
I would like to insight check to see if there was a flicker of acknowledgement of crystals beneath churches that has not yet been discussed with group. And I think I mean sort of the DM. I'm happy with Vanessa doing it with advantage because I don't want it to be that easy that I kind of find it. But I think there should be a something. Do you want to roll deception with advantage or something?
Yeah.
Okay. I ain't the most insightful, so
I'm down to clown.
I feel like she would be absolutely poker face in this.
Natural 20.
She is the rock that needs to be used to melt down and filled into the church.
Mhm. Stone cold.
Stone cold.
Does that answer your question, Hazim?
For now, thank you for your honesty.
I can't say that I recall such an edifice. If I had, I would have told the others.
Of course. Clearly I misunderstood. I meant to cause no issue.
No issues caused. There's nothing to unearth there. Tell me, you've been here a while. Have you seen figures? We've come across them only a handful of times, but they always take a keen interest in us. Dressed in white, almost resiny skin. Seems to have some kind of power. I don't know. You all fought one while I was away. Did it exhibit any other abilities, or?
No, that about covers it. But there are many strange things that we have seen while we've been here.
Some new manner of undead?
It was not living, but it had, as Vanessa says, more of a construct in nature almost. A living construct.
This is not something I'm familiar with.
Various creatures aside, if you have been watching us for this long, and your entire intent was to get to know us better, I would like to get to know you better as well.
I am an open book. Please.
Traditionally, where I come from, the host starts with the first story. Do you have a story from your homeland that you can tell?
Or perhaps a story about how you've been able to scry on us this entire time.
2 stories.
Which story would you prefer, Hazim?
Vanessa just sort of turns her head to him.
I am pretty curious to find out how you were able to see us. Sorry, Whisper.
It is, unfortunately, less exciting than you may think.
Then we will go with the other story.
I have begun the story. My agents, by which I mean those who serve here at Morfenzi and assist me with my research and operations, they travel extensively throughout Falkovnia. You must understand, Drakov enforces a harsh, effective regime, but it is prone to dissent, and so my agents keep an eye on those sites, quite often out of sight, and it is by this that we have seen you on a few occasions. One of my agents, for example, was with Irina's group, and broke off before her carnage, which you admirably quelled. So I knew of this, but from a mundane witness who reported back to me. I can, on occasion, if my lord is willing to allow me to, see through the eyes of birds. But this is a gift I'm able to do once or twice a day. And so it is not like I have been staring over you constantly with the unblinking eye of the Lord, but I have merely chosen my moments and been well informed.
Very opportune moments indeed.
I do not feel that was so much a story, though.
By all means, please demonstrate on how a story is well told.
I point at Whisper. My mouth is full. It would be rude.
Is this an acceptable part of the guest-host exchange, Whisper?
I'm just staring daggers at Azim right now. You did ask which story Azim wanted, and he chose the mundane one, of which we already knew many pieces, so that is fine. I guess I can tell a story now.
Can I make a request? Could it involve this Frith? I would know more of what you call God. And it's fine if you want to just say, I tell a story about Frith.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell a story about Frith, which, since Quentin hasn't heard it before, it's very much the god is the sun, created everything. All the creatures were living in peace till rabbits started kind of getting out of control. The main rabbit guy was acting a little arrogant, so Frith gave permission to, since they wouldn't calm down, permission to other creatures to hunt them, to try and cull numbers and things like that. Eventually, Frith promised the leader of the rabbits that as long as they're cunning and full of tricks, their people will never be destroyed. And I go through the whole creation myth.
The first few times she was very enthusiastic.
When she finishes, I go, that is a story. I carry him.
Indeed, and so it is by this Frith that you are able to manifest your miracles in the way I have heard what you do.
Yes.
But he also allows you to harm with these powers. This is, well, let's say concerning, but I would be interested in hearing your philosophy behind it. On how your god allows you to wound others with his gifts.
He allows the mountain lion to harm the deer.
Which lion?
Any lion. I do not think that harm is something outside of a god's nature.
We have entered the realms of metaphors, and I had not realized. I apologize.
What is the nature of your god? And do you have a story that you can regale us with that is your favorite?
He will go through he will basically reel off Genesis until interrupted. In the...
Do we stop him at a
Whisper's
part
like,
where...
I'll interrupt him and say, so does your god not allow harm?
Man performs the harm. That is if they leave God's grace and act against him.
Do you not find your god to be somewhat cruel, manipulative? I mean, it was him who presented this fruit, was it, the apple? He could have stopped them, he could have kept them in paradise, and yet he chose to just watch and see them undo themselves.
Would it really be life if there was no choice?
It's not a matter of choice.
Should you be punished for it, though? If you are given free choice as a gift, should you be punished for making the choice yourself?
We're all gonna get cancelled as we go.
I love them, but we're in I love that we're in character. You see Luke out, he's like,
No, it's more just like, yes, our characters are somehow gonna bring down this dude's Christianity with a few questions, like that, like you get at any sort of atheist 101 camp.
The big bad,
like, here we
big
go.
bad of this campaign is the Catholic Church.
He just takes off his hat. It's just a MAGA cap underneath it.
He's like, he takes his hat off and he keeps going with the fucking popes, even cardinals hat.
But your god has instructed others, by the sounds of these lengthy stories that you have told, has instructed people to do terrible things in his name. So he is presumably also a vengeful god.
There was a time where man was crueler and more prone to avarice, and the approach he took was more direct and punitive. But as humanity continues to move in the right direction, he is softened.
So, there's meat on this table, right, GM?
Yeah,
not as much.
You're not gonna try and bartlett this, are you? Because I do not know enough about the Bible.
Whisperer is just asking. So, did you step outside of your god's graces when you hunted this creature for us to eat?
No, it is game.
What determines man, then? According to your god, what are you allowed to treat as a lesser creature that can be hunted and harmed, still within God's graces?
Before I came to this land, I would have said human, but clearly that expands to sentience. Now I found myself somewhere I was quite challenged to have first met Verat Junel, and now I meet even more marvelous and varied individuals. So it is obviously an approach, a mindset that I've expanded upon.
So sentience, then. And yet, the undead show signs of that.
I shall not be serving any undead at this table.
But you experiment on them? I am sure that causes harm.
In the hopes of bringing forth that sentience.
I am sorry, I am unfamiliar with your god, and seek only to understand, since I did not grow up with his stories.
This is a thrilling conversation, an opportunity for me, make no apology.
Allowed to harm. If by then harming you are proving that that creature is one that should be protected from future harm?
It can be difficult to comprehend, I know. But
it does seem...
they say the Lord does work in curious manners.
Seems to be the case with most gods, though, isn't it?
I do not find that ever to have been the case.
Tart?
You don't find that even Frith has worked in curious and mysterious ways?
No, I do not believe so. He seems to work by the way all things work. He rises up, he brings food through his warmth and light, and he makes sure that there is balance.
He could also burn flesh and dry out crops if he's, well, I guess too overactive, too eager.
To balance out a year where he hid from the sky and there was too much rain for those crops to grow properly. I would love if my people were scattered all over this land, however. He saw an imbalance and thus created the Elil to hunt us, forcing us to become clever and run faster. He ensures balance, and that is the only way. The way of nature.
Do any of the rest of you have a faith?
Not particularly.
Did you before? In your youth? I mean...
Well, I was raised to honor Torm, but as I grew up, it became less and less important to me to pray to him, to spread any of his message. It was really more of my family's beliefs than mine.
I understand. You get some little sense for a second, Vanessa, that there's a flash of him looking like he genuinely pities you. And
Pity.
yeah. For just a moment.
She just kind of stares him down. But like with a smile. I think she's perceptive enough to notice when someone's like trying to shame her or something like that. And I think that she just sort of keeps that diplomatic, smiling face on. Not too much of a smile though.
The good doctor types furiously. I personally do not worship any god. I believe in things greater than the deities.
Oh?
I follow destiny. Destiny guides even those that believe gods are of the highest tier. Gods are infallible. Gods come, they go. So it has been observed where we come from. And so destiny beholds all beings.
I have had my fill of the food, not the company. Please, eat as much as you would like, Izzy. Quint, how did you find it?
The food was very good. Certainly the best I've had since in my short time being here.
When would you like to see my laboratory, Vanessa?
Quint's ears prick up.
Well, tonight if possible. It's, of course, no particular rush if you believe that we're safe here for the evening.
You are indeed safer for the evening. Safer than you would have been had you stayed out in that copse, so close to the heart soil.
She
My
quickly
destiny told me.
She kind of quickly looks over at Hazim and whisper, and then looks back to Dr. Razbanov. Very well. I would. I don't want to rush you or anything like that. If again we're here for the evening, at your leisure, is perfectly all right.
We can allow our food to digest somewhat, but we can certainly head straight there. From here, of course. You will all join me, I hope.
I would be most curious to, indeed.
Excellent. A couple of my assistants are working down there already this evening, so we will have company.
I did actually have a question before we went down there. There was an agent of yours, presumably an agent, wearing similar vestments as I am. But you mentioned something about change, something. And forgive me, it's been quite a while since I spoke with him, but something about his arm.
His arm? Out of
character. Wasn't one of the agents like? Didn't he have like a malformed arm or something?
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Just gotta plug my headset in, and then yes, I can certainly follow up on that.
Valstegar.
It was a Valstegar, yes.
Ooh.
It wasn't just his arm; it was
His face on mangled.
Yeah.
most of him. Yeah. One of the before this recent quest or endeavor to unlock the sentience of the undead, my expertise was used in a strictly combative sense, trying to repel them. And one of these took the form of something that the soldiers came to call a primal serum. An injection would greatly increase strength, mobility, resilience, but the side effects were severe. It was normally taken by those who found themselves in impossible life or death situations and wished to make it through. They do carry the mark and the signs of having taken that serum still, and it is no longer used. This is the closest I came to losing Drakov's favor when I stated my refusal to continue concocting it.
You have been most forthright with us, Doctor. And I like to think that we have been honest with you.
With me, yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
Do you mean to imply that we haven't been honest with others?
No, I mean, we sit here, we have spoken openly and honestly, exchanged tales of our past, and laid bare our intent. You have been as gracious and wonderful guests as I would strive to one day be as a host.
Well, that aside, I ask you to be candid now. I know not too much about sciences, but are there intentions for you to do experiments in any way and tests on us?
Against your will, certainly not. I have made clear my intention or my hope to speak with or work with Whisper to see if any of her thrift gifts can be shared or better understood against the undead, but nothing against any of your will.
Forgive me, we arrived here with something of a skewed opinion of you, and either it has been given to us through the mystery that you have here and what it is that you do. Perhaps reputations of old that still cling to you, or perhaps you are an extremely good liar and we are in the danger that we thought we might coming here. But if that
Yes,
is not the case, then I will hold you to that. I will believe in your words now.
Yeah, while he was talking, I wanted to do an insight check.
On me or on him?
No, on
Okay.
Raspberry. I wanted to make sure that like the whole against your will was genuine.
Raspberry man.
Rolling like ass tonight, but yeah, it's a 9.
I'll do what I normally do. I will roll a deception, whether it's truth or not, just so we have a marker. Yeah, he seems to be forthright with his words.
Mm-hmm.
You are so at ease, Vanessa.
False.
Doubt.
Well, we should head down.
I will.
Volstan and Strahd will still be continuing their tidying of the lab and rearranging, so it should not be locked up yet. We will have to pass through holding cells for some of the undead to get there. They are noisy. I just wish to make you aware of this so it is not a shock. Yes, Whisper.
These Volstrad and Strahd, they are your assistants you spoke of earlier?
2 of them, yes.
Do they
Across the
share
table.
your belief in your god?
Say again?
Do they share your belief in your god?
I think not.
They are of this land, then?
They are, yes.
Across the table, did we address the blue smoke?
Not in character, you haven't, no.
There was something curious that we noticed, actually, since from our earliest days here. We've seen them throughout, but there's a curious color of smoke coming from Morphensi, deep blue color. What's the nature of it? What burns with blue smoke?
At the time where we worked upon the primal serum, the final stage of brewing it resulted in a heavy blue smoke being output. And although we no longer brew the serum, it was remarked upon by a number of sources that the consistent, reliable plume of dark blue was a useful marker for Drakov's forces, scouting, navigating. So now we waste a lot of time and resources burning herbs with the same effect. There is in fact nearly an entire field dedicated, but could be used for food or medicinal or alchemical effects, that is dedicated entirely to the growing of this plant.
Intriguing.
What was this plant called again?
Blue herring.
I feel like you made that up on the spot.
That
Sounds
is
more like the name of some kind of
spelled-
animal than a plant.
Oh, okay, yeah, of course, German.
Yeah.
Well, and I will drink the last of my drink
grab a bit more food, grab a drumstick, and pick up my
Any
glaive.
further questions before we begin combat? I mean, before we head down? You asking about my assistant's faith? They are Falkovnians, so their faith takes the form of making it through to the next month, and as I said earlier, I have not found Falkovnians to be particularly receptive to the idea of faith. No offense, and the serving person in the corner is like, and none taken.
But
Faith in
they
Drakov,
are-
however.
Indeed, an unwavering faith in Drakov, guiding them to safety month after month.
Does that
Moon
conflict
after
with your own faith, your own drive?
Oh, they do not worship her as a deity. They put their faith and their trust to her to safeguard them, but it is not how we understand worship to be. Yes, Whisper.
So, I assume they are also unfamiliar with the ways of magic and differences in creatures.
The people of
Have you
Falkovia,
had to
yes.
train them on that as well? Have they worked with you long?
You're speaking again of my assistant, sorry.
Yes, I am just with how the people here seem to have reacted to us. I am surprised you were able to enlist the help of ones that could potentially stay so calm and scientifically minded in the face of so many things.
Those who
different.
serve here, serving in Morfenzi, is a goal of many as we rise throughout Drakov's ranks. Our work here is important, and yet it is away from Lekar, where the undead focus the brunt of their attacks on most occasions when the new moon rises, though there are, of course, exceptions. Morfenzi has been the site of the brunt of the undead attack only a single time. Other than that, those who serve here are skilled veterans, calm, capable, confident in a crisis. It is not so much to find those who are also scientifically or methodically minded and steer them towards those endeavors. Either of my assistants could still, were the undead to come bursting through the doors of a laboratory, or if it were to be a breakout, defend themselves just as capably as those at Drakov's right hand when the new moon rises.
Lead on.
And if there are no more questions, he will rise. And yeah, leads you through the building.
Just real quick, though. Real quick.
Yep,
As we're leaving, is the goblet still out?
it is.
I think Vanessa would be the last person to leave. Unless...
You're on the other side of the table. Makes sense.
Yeah.
The,
So I think
the servant person's still there, but she's just sort of busy on herself, starting to tidy things up. It is easy to just go, oh, she ain't looking, and do what you're going to do.
Yeah, I think she's just going to lift the goblet up and sniff it again and make sure that no one's around, or at least not paying attention, and just take a quick sip of it.
It is, of course, blood. Still warm.
What?
It is very, very pleasing to you.
I think she'll struggle to not drink the whole thing down, but given that she's hungry, I think she'll just throw it back as quickly as she can and then set it down where it was, and as discreetly as possible, try to catch up with the others.
Yeah. Your need to feed is staved off. You feel nourished. Heading downstairs, you head across the hall into a library where you can tell at one point there's clearly been a secret door in the typical bookshelf way, but there is no longer any attempt to hide it. It is very much just open, and you can see from the floor around it. This is something that's very rarely closed, and this library has become more of a thoroughfare now. As you descend down the steps, and can I suggest we take 10 minutes at this point, and we will pick back up instantaneously for you. Watch this.
No, I gotta take a piss. I'll be right back.
Oh, we were back in. I'll take us back out after we do it.
Got him.
I will leave that one in then. It's do you know what? I'd have thought you were joking, but it was the earphone. I thought you committed to a bit with the earphones. Okay,
Very well
That's
done.
what you gotta do. You gotta commit.
we had to do a false stop there coming back. Sorry, because Jack had a continence issue, but we are now back.
Jack's natural 20 on deception still rolling strong there, I see.
Yep. So you are led down the steps.
I'm walking down with my chicken drumstick, dipping it in my pot of mayonnaise.
What kind of game was this, by the way? Was it chicken or turkey or
Chicken.
lamb?
Well, a bird. Poultry.
Oh, well, but we had them for dinner.
Peas and
Yeah, chicken or
Pheasant, quail.
turkey, or perhaps a bit of grouse.
How many,
Fame-
how many
were any of them
chickens have we
famous?
seen? How many chickens have we seen around here?
Well,
This is
had you gone to the Zemira farmstead, to all the chickens in Fog Cove near it?
Didn't have enough. Wouldn't have been because there's no chicken assets.
No, a field of gently swaying chickens.
Okay.
Yes, you find yourself led through very much what you see here, except without the grill of daylight in the ceiling. There are guards posted infrequently throughout. Occasional more Fenzi agent you recognise from their garb. Not patrolling, but clearly going about some sort of business. God, this music's a bit more discordant than I thought it was. A bit all over the show. But yeah, through bars on the wall, you see numerous undead. Not piled in like huge volumes. You know, they are stored in numbers that, were they living prisoners, would be considered humane still. They are clearly not like battery undead. But as he glides ahead, no, he more stalks, I imagine. His height glide just is a bit too abbotty. As he stalks ahead, he'll sort of just gesture out to the cells and be like, until we are able to successfully ignite that spark, they unfortunately cannot be trusted amongst the living.
Understandable. We wouldn't want any accidents to occur.
You may attempt to converse if you wish to whisper. I know it is something that clearly is important to you.
Do any of the corpses look familiar to us?
Is there one that's got no arms and legs? It's just a head that we absolutely decimated.
I would say, looking through the bars as you're walking along, no. You do not have to, of course, whisper. It is simply a suggestion.
How long have they been here?
And he points over to not quite like hospital bed notes, but you'll see there are like logs and papers in like sheets next to each other wall. So it varies. Obviously, as I mentioned, there is a fine window in which there is hope for them. He just drifts over to one. This male, 3 weeks. Sort of walking along. These 2 women, a little under a month.
Do you keep them fed?
That is something we have experimented with. What can they be fed ethically? We do not sacrifice the living to them, but they will not feed on dead flesh. We have tried game, freshly caught, with varying success. We have tried, on one occasion, live game placed into the pen, but that sometimes is leapt upon, sometimes is ignored. So we have fed them, sometimes we have not, and have simply tried to work as quickly and effectively as we can in that window we have before the hunger racks their mind. So I appreciate that it's not a simple yes or no question, but hopefully the answer has given you context.
Yes, thank you.
He continues down the corridor unless anybody stops him with further questions, and
No, but I'd be looking at Whisper just to kind of get her reaction to all of this.
I'm very much inspecting everything. But so far, the fact that he has logs and stuff, it's like, that can go either way. But, but, you know, it seems relatively humane conditions and, you know, but I'm mostly just looking at all of them to see how their countenance is.
the undead.
Yeah.
You see a couple that are just like not even paying attention to their surroundings. They're in their cell. You see a couple that are very much focused on you, but in a way that you can tell, having been round here, is just your prey, your warm flesh. I am locked in on you. You do spot a couple throughout the corridor where you can tell there's that slight something more. Only slightly. Not like the level you did in Eerie, where you walked through a crowd of the undead safely.
What is the vibe of the guards?
Sick of hearing this noise. You know, the groaning is constant. They look more like they are on hand for if anything goes wrong, as opposed to like actual prisoner management. They're not like, you know, truncheons along cell bars or aggravating. They are stood down but present. They're clearly just more there for like a whoa. If something unexpected has happened, we don't want all these undead to be milling around without anybody being able to do anything about it.
I will meet Vanessa's eye and just say, would that the dead were not dead, but there is grass that must be eaten, pellets that must be chewed, holes that must be dug. Go on.
So where is this laboratory?
You see another set of doors at the end of a corridor that he leads you to, and he just pushes on one, and both heavy doors swing open. Oh, the music has stopped. Oh, because it was tied to the moaning of the dead. It isn't quite as horror show as there are no hands in jars. Where are the music? Is that it?
I love that they have like a nice little bamboo beachy
Wind chime. Yeah.
along with the scientific horrors of the beyond.
Let's go for. There we go. So yeah, it opens up into a large, high-ceilinged laboratory. Stone floors, large vats around you. Some brewing with just chemicals and some sort of potion or liquids churning away. A couple that clearly have humanoid figures inside. Not quite in not in like the so much of a curled up fetal pose way they normally are in these things, but more like on their back. Very much I don't know how back the tanks are, but I'm thinking like Starship Troopers, like the healing tanks where they're sort of like in a big bath thing. Yeah, this stretches out for a good 80 foot. You walk over a metal strut walkway as you head into the lab, and you see that there is a lower floor down some steps. But yeah, he sort of stops and looks and waits to see if there are questions on any individual points, but you also hear conversation deeper in the lab ahead.
Are there any immediate books or tomes or anything like that we see?
Not yet. You see there are a couple of desks dotted around, but this is more of a large open work area than like an intimate study.
Okay.
The metalwork that you have here, we've not seen anything like this in Silverbass. We've obviously not yet been to the capital. Is this, I suppose, technology seen elsewhere, or did you have to have somebody craft it specifically for here?
A lot of the distillery and scientific technology I had to specify and was involved in the first few iterations, so mistakes, imperfections, but there is metalwork here. The quality is lacking. We walk on a metal strut currently, but this equipment could not be transported over it. It is somewhat brittle.
I'm going to look in one of the vats. Do the figures inside look decomposed and undead?
For the most part, there's a couple that you can see that look like very, very stocky, well-built humanoids.
Oh, is it?
Humanoids or humans?
Humans.
Okay.
I will look over at the one that looks like it's not atrophied much, that it seems to be quite well built, and say, this person, were they... Are there any bubbles coming off? Do they look like dead and floating, like formaldehyded, or?
It's not formaldehyde. There is slight movement in the liquid. You know this man.
I mean, I don't, do I? Or is he just saying,
It is-
because I'm...
It is difficult to tell through the liquid, but this is Valstegar. I believe you met
Oh.
at the fort.
Yes.
I mentioned the side effects of using the serum. When he is not working, he is often in a great amount of pain. It soothes and brings relief for a while. And he reaches over and just gives like a dung, dung, dung. And you see there's like a bit of a stir and a bit of a lean forward from inside the tank through like bleary eyes. And you recognise the heavily damaged visage of Vilstigar, who gives like a bit of a slight wave of acknowledgement.
How often does he have to go through these treatments?
It depends how long he is away for working. The longer he is away, working, travelling throughout Falkovnia, the longer he must anoint himself again afterwards.
What is he anointing himself in? What is this?
Soothing, numbing agents that over time will sink into the flesh and not numbed to the point of uselessness with day-to-day tasks, but a deep-set soothing of the muscles and bones, which are so heavily damaged and twisted by his transformations.
Damn, I would love to try and direct all of my energy to picking up whatever I can hear from the whispering or conversation or whatever ahead of us.
Yeah, you can hear it. It's certainly not whispered. There's no stealth. It's just a bit echoey away. If you're sort of listening, just trying to catch words in the lulls between the conversation, you can roll me a d4. It is a conversation about sandwiches. You can hear two
Mayo or not mayo?
voices. You can hear two
Peanut butter?
voices disagreeing on the old straight cut versus diagonal on a sandwich.
Diagonal cut, always. It's not a debate.
Ooh la la, with me diagonal cut.
I get like a nice little dinosaur shaped stencil, which I stamp on, and then I only eat the crust and I throw the centre away.
I get the middle. I cut a
Decadent.
square out of the middle, so I've got corners and then a big square in the middle.
Nice.
That's how I do it.
Diamond, yeah.
But yeah, you hear this conversation taking place ahead.
Do they hear our conversation taking place about sandwiches and how we cut them in our? Okay. I'm kind of floating on the peripheral, just kind of like eyeballing, looking into the different vats, seeing if are there any. I'm assuming there's not anything that isn't humanoid in here, right?
So a couple of them, like so Velstagar, you see, like is very well built, and it's not normal, particularly on like one of his sides. But you knew this when you met him.
Yeah.
He had not quite Izek, but you know,
Not his final form.
no. But that's the most, yeah. Other than things that you can tell are just misshapen with like decay and blow. There's not like, hey, this person has a tail. There's none of that.
Okay.
And a figure.
Are there any additional? Oh, sorry. Are there any additional exits out of here?
Not that you've seen so far, but it is a large place, and you sort of were stepped down. It might go further down. You're not sure. I did mention that there were 2 guards inside as well, inside the lab.
By the door.
Before you walked over the metal walkway.
What's just because he showed some enthusiasm at dinner? What's Quint's reaction to all of this?
I would say that he is very curious and keen to gain any knowledge that he can.
Yeah, a figure comes walking towards you from deep in the lab. Just seems to be moving to pass you, and you see, she's like, "Doctor, good evening." So, yes, good evening, and you would recognise her as
Someone we've met. Terina van Helden.
yeah. Van der Helden. I don't know where she's gone from my list of names, but it is that Van der Helden. I'll have to find her art. But the female Morfenzi agent who you met with the trio in Fort Watton. There was Van der Helden, Primrose, and
I put her in Discord for you.
Cool. And she sort of nods at those of you that she has met before and carries on by.
Here's Valstager as well. Yeah. Yen.
And you hear no further conversation from ahead in the lab. But a few moments later, just like a low sort of whistle. Like a musical, like a tune, not a sing.
Someone whistling to themselves.
Yeah.
I will just continue walking forward into the lab, but I am constantly keeping an eye out for if there are any other exits from this place.
Okay, yeah, as you're walking through, you don't see any. You see a couple of the doors, but you can see that they're from, like, internally walled, like, rooms throughout, unless they can seal a stairway up or down, so it's not really out. You don't see any others. You round into a bit of a more open desk working area, in which there are two men, one whistling, one not, both just working on separate things. One of the men you recognize, for he is not quite so tooled up as he is here.
Ooh. I remember him.
And the eyes just sort of pass over you all for a moment before going to the doctor. And there's just a...
Where do we remember him from?
From
He was at
Erie.
the church.
Yeah, he's the guy that has no tongue.
He was the... Was
You
he the
charmed
guy
it.
that I
You
made friends with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was making sure. He's my buddy.
And then he gave you the slip. He got you to look after the undead he'd bagged up for the Erie. And he didn't come back.
Mm-hmm. So we also used that to give him this. We
We both like,
giving
"Hey,
the
you!"
slip.
We've both done it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Vanessa was giving us the slip to go into the church. What a slippery place that area is.
It was raining, so I mean it makes sense.
Filled with lube.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that kind of party.
Raining silicone. What? No. Yeah, I think. What is his demeanor when he passes us? Does he look like he's acknowledging us? Does he like give us a stink eye?
Suspicious. But
Yeah.
then he sees the doctor is also there, and seems likely that he's, accepting and understanding of the situation, given that his boss is there.
I will nod at him with a little smile, because I mean, he's gonna know I charmed him, but we were briefly very, very close friends.
Yeah, he gives you just a... He goes back to pestle and mortar and something. The other figure there, working away, sort of brown coat, turns and just nods to the doctor. Say, "Good evening, doctor. You were back earlier than I would have expected." Say, good evening, Strahd. Yes, I wanted to show our guests around. Why have I gone to the accent as well?
Oh.
Blood.
I wanted to show our guests around before we retire for the evening. Why does Strahd look like Jesus?
I mean, really.
I mean, really.
I can change the art if it's a little too
No,
Jesus. for us.
he's not a count, so doesn't need to do the bottle black hair yet.
He looks a bit Keanu.
A little bit, yeah. Little John Wicky. Strahd, is it?
Indeed. And you are?
Vanessa Cydia, guest of Dr. Raspinov. And
He'll-
she'll extend her hand.
He will, with enough telegraphing that it's easy to politely decline if you want to, he will make to politely kiss the glove.
Oh, yeah. Kiss the
Yeah.
glove, baby.
That's the name of your sex tape.
Enchanted to meet your acquaintance.
Likewise. We've heard a great deal about you and the work that you do.
Oh?
From Dr. Raspinoff.
I am greatly flattered. What exactly have you heard? It is very rare that the good doctor so overtly gives praise.
I don't know if it was praise, but it was at least factual, I assume. Given...
Ooh, a blade that could cut either way.
She just kind of smiles at that.
And the rest of you, your fine companion, you are a magnificent looking fellow, aren't you? To Azim.
I am, yes. Pleasure to meet you. I am Hazim Alif.
Strad von Zarovich.
I'll shake his hand. I'll hold my hand for him to kiss it. And then I just...
If he catches the joke, you are... No offense.
Yes, it would seem that perhaps your work more than your name precedes you, but it is most definitely interesting what you are doing here. You are under the tutelage of the good doctor, or did you come with some of your own ideas?
No, I think I retain my position due to the esteem of fucking up fewer times than others. This sort of work is does not particularly overlap well with someone who was a farmhand who had a spear pushed into their hand, which was then upgraded to a sword when they survived long enough.
And what was in your hand before you came here?
My father's cudgel, after he fell in front of me.
So you were a fighter among all others, and then...
Who here is not a fighter?
I suppose there are those that have not been yet put to service. We have been to Fort Watton. I dare say that everybody at least has had a weapon in their hand at some point, but some are more positioned into the more civic duties.
Of course. But even they must be useful.
Of course. But, let's just say, your background was as a military man before you were stationed here to
What can I say? I had an aptitude for not dropping vials.
an important skill, undoubtedly.
And where are you all from? You clearly, clearly not from here. Although, Lady Vanessa, it pains me. But clearly our paths would have crossed at one point if you were a Falkovnian native. I would have made sure of it, but the rest of you... Unseemly is an offensive word, but unfamiliar to me.
My name is Quintinius Verlinix. I'm
That's
a
quite
new
a
addition.
mouthful, isn't it?
Oh, please call me Quint.
Must
yes,
I?
I've only recently arrived here, compared to my companions.
Oh? I imagine there's a story to that.
I look at Whisper.
Probably.
A long one for another day, I'm sure.
Yeah, I am just trying to be the most casual, but just drilling holes in it with my eyes.
May I ask you a question? We haven't been introduced yet, but why are you so blue? Smile. It is a good evening. I understand that you have eaten well.
sus. I'm unfamiliar surroundings. Whisper, play. And I'll extend my hand. Not for a kiss, though.
Yeah, he'll kind of do that slight. He feels with resistance against turning it that way, so he just happily turns it into a good handshake. Once again, Strad von Zarovich.
Chad von Zarovich. Nice.
Jesus von Zarovich.
What brings you down here, then? As the doctor promised to show you anything? You see, the doctor's just kind of he's just checking over some things now, just obviously things he's interested in from his absence. He's just a few feet away. He's still in earshot. He just isn't just standing there staring at you both. So I'm having to do two voices.
It seems we share some aligning goals regarding the undead here. Perhaps you do as well, pertaining to their sentience and possibly their liberation from this hunger that seems to take them.
Yes, it's of course it's very, very dear to the doctor's heart, and by extension, of course, my own and all of us who toil away in the laboratory.
How long have you been working with Dr. Razbranov?
Ooh, about 8 years now. I think that's how long I said Razbanov's been here for.
I think so, probably, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who has keen mind?
Not me.
Me, but I'm not
Not
allowed
me.
to use it, so...
What for? What's the question?
How
How long
long?
Dr.
How long
Razbanov's been
is?
here?
Yeah, it's either 8 or 18. Whatever it is, that's how long Strahd's been working in the lab. Since there was a lab, basically.
How did you come to this sort of field of study? It doesn't seem like something that easily accessible or taught here.
As I said, it truly was a trial by error. Morfenzi was simply staffed by the usual guard rotation. Guards were brought in to help with duties. Those who fucked up did not get assigned Morfenzi again. And over time I became familiar enough and didn't fuck up. Became a permanent part of the fixtures.
But I mean, what is it that drew you to the sciences, if that's what this is? Generally,
Nothing has drawn me to them. I've been assigned. It was a duty that was given to me to be here, but I managed to not be terrible at it. There was no passion or pursuit of this in my youth. I expected to be a farmer, as my father was.
Very interesting.
There's still the both of these guys and the doctor here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you know the other guy, well, you've heard from the other guy that he has no tongue, and the doctor's just sort of milling about.
Did we get Tongueless Man's name?
I said it before and I forgot to type it down.
It's someone.
We're going to go with the name. Luca, pick a name. Go on.
All I can think of is Vinny.
Vinny. Yeah.
Vinny Van Helsing.
Yeah, Mrs. Vinny. Yeah, Vinny says nothing.
I love that in the repertoire of all the fantasy names that you know, it's Vinny.
Yep. It's because he was my buddy for a little while, so it's going to
Yeah.
be like one of those kind of names.
Yeah. Yeah, Vinny.
That's how it's written, though. It's like Wallachia and Valaki. Vinny.
Vinny.
Yeah, he just.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, perhaps showing us what you're currently working on. Not to pry, but I mean, we did come out in here, interested in scientific pursuits.
God damn it, Alex. Absolutely, although I'm afraid at the moment my work is extremely mundane. and you see that there's a few different. I can't remember what the name is for like botanical distillery stuff that's there bubbling away.
So is it just like full on Frankenstein's lab here? Just
yeah. Currently, the work I'm undertaking is attempting to utilize one of a common herbal tea extracts that is used and amplify it with some of the, not the primal serum, that's now forbidden, but one of the base chemicals, like a potion base we used for it. Trying to use that as a catalyst for giving it restorative properties, so that somebody could imbibe and immediately feel the closure of wounds. But I just can't get the colour right.
The color?
It should be darker red. So I understand based on some of the herbs involved, but something among the processes is not working, and so I'm trying different iterations.
Yeah, I think Vanessa sort of turns and looks at Quint, since he's a nerd, seems to be into this kind of stuff. But I don't think she says anything. Well then, my companions here are a little, well, they can introduce themselves, I assume. And she turns to the others.
Introduce?
I already introduced myself.
Oh,
to
I'm
them.
sorry. I'm totally had like a little brain fart. Cut that out.
Cut that,
Edit
cut
it
that.
Cut. Jane, taking that out.
And now that he's back to working, he starts to become very dull, and he's just more into reeling off the sort of maths and the processes, and that kind of charm that was there just seems to sort of drop off a bit.
So it's like he was working in retail or something.
Make an insight check. You're over there talking to him. There
20.
are enough glances and checks and little furtive moments that you become quietly confident that this is someone who's decided it's time to appear boring.
Interesting. So it feels very studied, very deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. Put that in my head for later. So he just left us four just to sort of look around the lab?
Yeah,
or?
you're all just in this sort of central work area of the lab. You've got like a good sort of 15-foot wander range between that, and there are a couple of desks here that are strewn with books and equipment. A lot of books that you can see seem to be written in. There are a couple of books there on local herbology and movement patterns of the undead, depending on the seasons.
Do they look like published, or do they look more like written, like handwritten journals?
They look like journals. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you don't mind, Mr. von Serevich, I'd love to go through these.
Yes, of course, yes.
Yeah, she'll start to look through them, see if she picks up on anything. But I think when she does, she'll also like Eldritch Sight the place just to see what pings.
Several areas, or difficult to tell it, but Strahd has a couple of areas of magic on his person.
What areas?
Belch Pout and what looks to be like an
Belch Pout?
like an inside Belch Pout, yeah. And some sort of like inside pocket of his shirt. Nothing visible. There's no visible like, oh, where the big scabbard is. There's nothing like that. It's a couple of little things.
And what schools are they on him?
The belch pout is divination. Inside the share is evocation.
Ooh. I have to get the one under his shirt later.
I will kind of walk up next to him. What is your process for this particular mixture?
And he will just reel off an in-depth, mundane explanation of the breakdown of some common herbs and boiling and distilling them and adding a couple of common things like akin to vinegar before the potion base is introduced later. It's all very, very...
I'm mostly just listening for the herbs and stuff that he's putting in.
He mentions a couple of herbs that you're not familiar with. You hear
who knows if they'd be called the same names.
Yeah. But you see like a couple of plants that you recognize as being like dock leaf on the desk. Nettles are dangerous in Barovia.
I do not know what dock leaf is, so.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. That must be a British thing. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Rabbits eat it a lot.
It's what you rub on yourself if you get stung by a stinging nettle.
Everyone's fucking Aragorn in the UK. The doctor, whilst looking at sort of inspecting things and checking things over and ostensibly looking at notes, drifts closer to you, Vanessa, and just quietly, you are looking better. I take it you're feeling better.
I am. I appreciate the warm meal. How is it you came to know about that?
And he sort of waits for his moment, looking at the others, sort of just popping around. He's like, "You were seen."
By whom?
A guard who reports to me. Goes back to his thing. Is it?
While that happens, because the doctor seems to be at least somewhat distracted, Quint would quietly to Strahd say, don't suppose you know a friend of ours by the name of Cespenar? And more than anything, I'm looking for his reaction.
It's a highly unusual name. Are they stationed here?
Damn, I'd like to roll an insight because, like, yeah, I'm fucking keyed into this.
No, we met him at a library.
Roll insight, and again, I will do my usual call and get a deception check.
My first roll of the day. Oh dear.
I mean, it is an unusual name, but people call themselves by all sorts of things. A library in Lekar, you mean?
No, I'm sure he said that he knew you. Perhaps I'm mistaken.
That's unfortunate. I hope you managed to find them.
Indeed.
He just goes back to his stuff. It was just a moment, Quint, whereas he's busy himself again It's just
Hmm.
over towards the doctor, and he just continues working away.
Quint takes a hint.
As I'm going through these journals, do I find anything relevant to what we've been after, or that kind of clues us into anything that maybe they didn't talk about?
It all seems to be... You find... So in terms of your larger goals, no. You do find journals pertaining to the effects on those undergoing the primal serum. They are a few books down. You know, they're not no longer at the top of the pile. But you read things about vastly improved strength, like people who are regular soldiers who are then wading through like groups of undead, tearing them limb from limb. But the effects, the after effects, killed several. Prone to like they're just very, very difficult to integrate afterwards. They anger quickly, can't be controlled, have growths and sort of deformities based off it all. It's you can even from a cursory read, it's clear why the program was discontinued.
Out of character to everybody else, like what else are we looking for here?
I mean, out of character, I don't think we'd necessarily want to be asking too many questions here right now. Anyway, right? We're kind of in the lion's den a little bit, so.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, if there's anything that we can kind of keep an eye out for pertaining to, goals.
I don't know. I guess stuff we should have probably talked about in character, right? Before we got here.
Well,
I think we'll have
like that.
I feel like we'll have a regroup, like in the evening. Like now that we're here and we know we're not gonna have to necessarily fight everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of like changes things a little bit. So I feel like that should probably be an in-character conversation when we get a chance.
The doctor is like, may I leave you in Strahd and Vinny's capable hands for a few minutes?
Of course.
And he just gives you all a bit of a nod and just heads out of the lab, past the guards. And after a few minutes more of just working away, Strahd gets to a point where he's lit a beaker and staring away and accidentally slips and knocks a vial off. It smashes. It's like, ugh! Shit. Vinny, it's already lit. Would you mind? And Vinny looks and just gives a bit of a... Just walks off throughout the lab. You see he goes to the far wall where he starts grinding something else down in a pestle and mortar. And Strahd, to you, Quint. So, make it fucking quick. What do you want?
Espinal said we should announce ourselves as allies.
And how the fuck did you get talking to Cespinal?
How do you think? We went to the library.
Aslan left a letter for you.
Fucking hell. Where was it? The library.
We don't know. We managed to get there through a portal in the old manor house.
The fucking manor. Fucking hell.
So where are you from? Clearly not here.
You have frozen on my Zoom call. Oh, you're back.
Oh,
I
I said, where are you from? Because you're clearly not from here.
Faerun.
Where
What
in
are we?
Faerun?
Neverwinter. So he keeps just
Inside.
glancing over to the far wall.
Inside him?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it too.
While they're inciting, can I ask, since I'm trying to be quick,
Yeah.
what is your goal here, and how can we help?
Is the far wall where the doctor is, or is he looking
No,
at
the,
something
the
else?
doctor's
Where
left.
Vinny went.
The doctor's left the
Vinny,
lab.
Vinny
Vinny's
is
at the
over
far
by the wall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't believe for a second that he's some Neverwinter. He's just reels it off very, very quickly.
If you'd like our trust, I would advise you to tell the truth, as that is how trust is established.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have been to Neverwinter, but I've been a lot of fucking places. Neverwinter's one of them. Originally, you won't have heard of it. But
Humorous.
I spent a few years... So you keep... What did you both say separately?
He said humorals, and I said trials.
Oh, okay, yeah. I said human Elizabeth. Greyhawk. Greyhawk? Anyone?
Hmm.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yes, you've heard of Greyhawk.
No, I've not heard of it.
I didn't fucking think so. Yeah. As for what was Whisper's question?
I asked him, what is your goal here, and how can we help you?
My original goal here has changed. My goal here now is to not get fucking strung up. And I do that by fitting in.
Okay.
What was your first goal?
To get out. But I can't get out. Even though I know how, I can't. So, the
Why
point.
can't you?
Because I promised to stay here.
Promise to.
Doesn't matter. I promised.
It does matter. That's why we're asking.
A friend. And then they left. But I promised, so I can't leave.
Can you help us, please?
Trust goes both ways. Who are you? Why should I trust you? Why should I upset everything?
Perhaps we can help you fulfill this promise.
I mean, we're Faerunian. We simply want to get home, but if we can, if we get out of your hair, that'll surely be good for you, and if we can help you along the way, we certainly will. You could at least impart us with some knowledge.
It's the mess that you leave in will leave me in.
Well, it's the mess either way, though, right?
I know the method of getting out, but I lack the means. Which means you lack the means.
Perhaps. You don't know enough about us to say what we do and don't know. So why don't you...
But I know you don't know the fucking way out, and I know that you don't have what dangles in Drakov's wardrobe. So,
What dangles
it
in your
together.
wardrobes then?
and he sort of casts a quick glance back over. I don't know if we've just lost.
It was a child.
Oh, what was that? Cast a glance back over to Vinny. He's like, I only got a minute. It'll be done in a minute, and if I knock it over twice, you'll be having none of it. She'll
Knock
have
something
something.
over?
She has something that is needed to pass out of this place.
A talisman.
Cespenar. Yes, a talisman.
What does it look like?
That depends on where it's to. I never figured that out. It won't be to Faerun. You'll have to go sideways or deeper before you get out.
Okay.
But it'll be something that clearly doesn't fit in here.
Perhaps like an arrowhead?
I mean, we've all got fucking bow and arrows here.
It's going to look out of place.
If we were to acquire such a thing, how do we use it?
There's a place you go to here. Away in and out. You go there. You do the
The
ritual.
lakes? The Three Sisters?
Three sisters. Traitors. Wrong
Three
campaign,
traitors?
mate. Wrong campaign.
Where we're from. Those are our sisters.
Sorry, my first language is Elvish.
Is it a specific item, or is it just things from other places can take you there?
A specific item.
It
You'd
seems
get the
like
you'd get the item she's got. You'd go there. You'd do the ritual. And you'd be gone.
What's the ritual?
Yeah, sure. Let me just fucking reel it off now. It needs to be written down.
Okay.
But you fucking. You took long enough. You see the guy's starting to walk back over to.
I'm already at a thingy like another.
Doesn't matter if it
vat.
boils over, yes? Just takes it back. It's like. It's fine. It's fine. Just tips it back in and carries on.
I will kind of look around and say, well, the doctor filled me with good wine. I know that even Watton has somewhere to drink. Is there anywhere that you folks go after you've finished the day's work?
The work never ends here. It's a skin of wine back in your room if you've managed to get hold of some.
So it is sleep, eat, work.
All in the service of Falkovnia.
Sounds fun.
I think as this is going on, Vanessa's obviously trying to like look nonchalant, but having heard I've got to write it down, I think she'll have torn a piece of paper and taken maybe like a quill, or one of her fountain pens or something. I don't know if she has it, but I think at some point she'll just very casually set it on the table at the other end and just kind of tap the paper as discreetly as you can, but then keep wandering around and looking at things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what's Quint doing?
Quint is going to engage with Vinny, the mute, and just be like, my impressive sword. What kind of techniques you use? As you can see, I have a couple of short swords of my own, although I'm sure I'm far less experienced and, traveled as you are. Perhaps you could show me some techniques sometime. And just starts, is rambling, honestly.
Goes back to what he's doing after a couple of seconds staring at you. Strahd, he doesn't have much to say.
Oh, he could always show, picture paints 1,000 words and all that. And then Quint proceeds to draw a sword. Don't know if that elicits a reaction. And starts
Make me
essentially.
Make me an initiative check.
Okay. He doesn't even think about it. He just starts doing it.
As you go to draw your sword, very quickly there's a shing from his own hip, and like the flat of his sword smacks like the pommel of yours. Sort of it's like trying to shove it back in a little bit, and it's just a.
And Quint immediately, he does a bit of a nervous laugh. Oh, well, you see, clearly you do have some things that you could teach us. They are a very skilled swordsman.
Gentlemen, do you think that this is the forum for this? Perhaps step outside if you'd like to spar.
And Vinny just points at Vanessa whilst looking at you, Quint. So just sticks it back in and carries on working. You see him shaking his head as he's working away.
Damn, I was trying to help him out.
So, not interested in a quick little sparring session?
He turns and just gives a bit of a and starts to take his coat off. If you're wanting to do this,
Sure.
yeah?
Are they stepping outside of the space?
No.
Or at least
There's enough
Can I-
room.
can I try and convince him to get out of sight at least, or at least enough space where
Persuade away.
I will.
With your words! I will allow your good words to mitigate that role.
I'm sorry. Again, we the good doctors here, good assistant rather, is trying to study and trying to perform tasks. If you both would like to engage in this show of aggressive masculinity or what have you, it would probably be best if you do it on the other side of the room, or even perhaps in the hall.
Indeed, it
But
might
is
be a little noisy, and we wouldn't want to risk breaking any further vials. More cleanup.
You just look down at the broken glass and just... And he walks off ahead of you.
I follow.
Yeah, so he drifts out of earshot.
I will follow Quint.
Make sure Quint doesn't die.
Leaving Whisper, Vanessa, and Strahd von Zarovich.
Yeah, Vanessa will be still try to still be casual, but I think even with her back turned to him, she'll just try to slide the paper and the pen towards him. But keep her position as such where she's looking at them, her companions.
How big's a piece of paper you've given him?
I don't know, probably what's the size of a journal?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Before, but when you described it before, if we went like tiny tear off, it's like
No.
how fucking small do you think my handwriting is?
No.
And he just has it next to his, and he's sort of looking at what he's doing and just sort of making some notes and measurements. And you see his hand just drifts over, and he starts jotting other stuff down. Is that? There's no comeback on me.
My pen, please. She'll take it.
None.
Very...
None at all.
She'll take it over her shoulder and just quickly stuff everything into her bag.
I'll give you an item for that. That note. So what? You're gonna steal Drakov Smalls and just zip out? Before
Perhaps.
what? Before the new moon?
If that's what we need to do, then that's what we need to do.
That's what you should do, but it's not you quick enough to do it. 5 days?
She's silent with that. I think she just lets that hang in the air. And I think she's immediately hit with the reality that she was gone for 2 weeks again. And then that, this is going to be more dangerous and time sensitive than she probably initially thought.
If you are looking to get out of here, you want to keep her away from the doctor.
Noted and appreciated. Thank you for your help.
Why?
he won't be inclined to let you go. Not if he can extract whatever it is you do. Divine gifts, yeah?
What are his plans for us?
I don't know, he's never got hold of a spellcaster before. I've flown under the radar. But the dangerous thing is, you made a mistake of saying that yours was given to you by God. At least that's what he heard. That unlocks a... like a dog with a bone. If it's given by a god and he thinks all the gods are his god, then he feels like it's something he's entitled to. So you saw Aslan?
No. Just letters. Writings.
There was a cave near Fort Watton. He left notes there.
There are creatures that have chased us.
We still have one of the trick tubes, right? I can't
Yeah.
remember who has it. I presume Vanessa's got it. Yeah.
One of the what?
The
Trick
trick tubes that that send the
Yeah,
things the other way.
the pneumatic, like, funk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can give you another sheet if you want to write him something quickly.
No point.
Very well.
Appreciated, but no point. I'm not leaving Falkovnia. What were
Can
you
you get us-
Promise.
Sorry?
We all like all four of us just
Yeah.
Who did you promise? Perhaps if we do get out of here, we could make sure to pass something along.
Irina. But not that mad bitch. My Irina. I promised her that I wasn't going to leave here until we got to the bottom of it all and stopped the undead. Said it as she was dying. She died. But I still spoke that promise in this fucking place. I tried to get out, but wouldn't let me.
What if we can break the hold on this land?
Sure. How?
I think it has to do with Drakov repeating her mistakes.
Don't repeat her mistakes. She's ignoring her mistakes. If you're there and you're near her when they come, you take a good look at her face. There's more she's letting on. And they always go for Lekar, except for one time they came here. And the one time they came here is when she was here. Bollocks. They're coming for her.
Who, the dead?
Yeah, they're dead. It's how these places work. They're all our punishment.
I think Vanessa's gonna start to walk back towards Quint and And Hazim, I think she's gonna let Whisper take care of the rest of this. They seem to be having a bit of a thing. So yeah, I think she's gonna go watch the boys fight.
Bit of a thing. I just want answers, and this is the first person to maybe have some.
Would you like to play out your little sparring with rolls, or were you did you have a ploy to like be bad enough that you kept like, I don't know, dropping your sword and then kicking it by accident and just prolonging it all?
Planning to at least give him a fair shake. Here's a question: was dinner long enough that I've had a short rest?
No.
Oh dear. Well, then there's not many things that I can do during my fight, but
Okay. Roll an initiative with me.
okay. I must be in combat. Oh, we're just doing it raw? Okay.
Oof.
This guy.
He pips you. We're gonna go to first best out of 3.
Okay.
What's your AC?
17.
His is 16. Misses. So you managed to parry him. Can you do a roll?
Do I effectively get a full turn? Can I do action bonus?
If you're yeah.
Okay. I will engage in the ancient elven art of blade song. So I start doing my humming and waving my sword around like I was trying to do before.
Okay. If you're going for that little ritual you've described before, as you do all that, he sort of looks at you for a moment. He's just got his sword in one arm, and he just reaches behind him and just pulls out and points what above the table we'd all recognise to be basically like
A gun.
a gun.
Like an
But
old-timey
like
gun?
yeah, like an old timey gun.
Like a blunderbuss?
Like a steampunky sort of like pistol, like blunderbuss pistol thing, and just sort of cocks his head at you, looking to see what you're going to do. You'd recognise this Quint as being a much smaller, more compact version of like someone that you've seen some artificers with. Would that interrupt your flow?
As I'm doing it, I'm explaining myself. I'm like, this is the ancient art of Elvish blade song. It's a method of focusing the mind and honing your senses. And also, I believe it's generally
It absolutely is, Jack.
unallowed to bring such a weapon into a sparring match. And I have both short swords drawn. I lunge at him regardless.
Okay. With a belly full of lead.
Oh dear.
Yeah, he just steps out the way and gives you a light, non-mechanical smack across the back of the head with the butt of his gun. As you stumble by, you can make your
Ouch.
other attack if you want to.
I don't have another attack.
Oh, sorry, the bonus was... Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep.
And, yeah, he just... As you sort of get your smack and turn around, you see that he's already holstering it and just shaking his head and putting his sword, sheathing his sword.
Come on, have at thee.
And he just starts walking back. The conversation has taken place back there. We're not going to go into time of it. I mean, you can swing at the unarmed guy if you want to.
No,
that is well within
that
your
is
rights.
Inappropriate. But my AC is 20 when Blade Song is going on. So.
Oh. So yeah, he starts to rejoin.
As he rejoins, Vanessa will just saddle up next to Hazim and just say, we have much to discuss tonight. There's news, information.
Oh, I would have expected so. Quint is about to get his ass kicked, so hopefully it was worth it.
I think it was. She'll look at him and smile.
Where is Whisper?
She's with Strahd right now. The two of them seem to have something of a rapport. She maybe will be able to draw something out of him that I wasn't.
And as the doors to the lab open and the guards step aside for the doctor rejoining you, we'll finish there. And we'll pick up with the return of the doc next week. And his huge...
Return of the doc.
Oh my god! His huge syringe. But yeah, cool. That was fun. A very, very talky one, but I liked all the talk you did, except for when I had to suddenly try and, as a character, know more about Christianity than I care to know above the table. So yeah, that was an interesting challenge to try and justify positions. But yeah, we will pick back up next week. That's it. That's
Thanks,
the
DM.
session.
Ooh.
Bye.